So that dreaded check engine light pops on, and your scanner spits out a code that looks like alphabet soup, P0796. You hear the word transmission, and your wallet starts to ache, right? Well, don't worry. In this explainer, we are going to crack this code together step by step.
Okay, I get it. Seeing that light can be super stressful, but seriously, don't panic. We're going to walk through what this code actually means, what your car is trying to tell you, and how you can approach fixing it. Let's dive right in.
All right, first things first. To fix any problem, you got to understand it. So, what in the world is a P0796 code? At its heart, this code means your car's brain, we call it the Transmission Control Module, or TCM, has thrown up a red flag. Specifically, it's pointing at a little part called the Pressure Control Solenoid C, and it's saying something's wrong with its performance, or it might just be stuck in the off position. So what does this thing even do? Well, just think of it like a tiny, super smart valve. Its whole job is to manage the pressure of your transmission fluid, which is basically the lifeblood of your transmission. That pressure is absolutely crucial for making your gear shift smooth. When that solenoid messes up, the whole shifting symphony gets thrown off key.
Now, the computer code is one thing, right? But what does this actually feel like from behind the wheel? I'm guessing your car has been sending you some pretty clear signals.
So, does any of this sound familiar? You're probably feeling some really harsh, clunky shifts, or maybe a really long, scary delay before the car actually goes into gear. Sometimes it might even feel like the transmission is slipping out of gear completely. Your car, in an effort to protect itself, might even go into what's called limp mode, where it gets stuck in just one gear. And of course, the most obvious sign of all is that little engine glowing on your dashboard.
Okay, so where do we even begin to diagnose this thing? Well, we always start with the simplest and most common culprit, the transmission fluid. The very first thing you're going to want to do is check your transmission fluid. And we're looking at two things here. First, the level. Is it too low? Low fluid is a classic reason for pressure problems. Second, what's the condition of the fluid? Healthy fluid is a nice, bright reddish pink color. If yours is dark brown, black, or smells burnt, you've definitely found a problem. And just a quick heads up, a lot of newer cars don't have a dipstick anymore, so you might need to check your owner's manual to see how to check it.
Okay, now listen up, because this is a super important pro tip. Your first thought might be, oh, the fluid's dirty, I'll just change it. But hold on a second. If your car has a ton of miles on it and that fluid has never been changed, doing a full flush can sometimes stir up trouble and actually cause more problems. See, for a transmission that's been taken care of, a fluid and filter change is just standard stuff. But for a high mileage one that's been, well, ignored, you gotta be careful. The new fluid has all these detergents in it, and it can act like a power washer inside your transmission, breaking loose all this gunk that can then go clog up important little passages. The bottom line is, do your homework for your specific car before you rush into a fluid change. All right, so maybe you've checked the fluid and it looks fine, or maybe you changed it and the problem is still there. Now it's time to dig a little deeper and find the real culprit.
Here's the good news. If P0796 is the only code you're seeing, the problem is almost always one of two things. Either the pressure control solenoid C itself has just plain failed, or there's an issue with the wiring that connects to it. You know, it could be frayed, corroded, or maybe just a loose plug. Okay, quick reality check. To get to these parts, you're pretty much always going to have to drain the fluid and drop the transmission pan. This is kind of that moment where you decide, am I up for this, or is it time to call in a professional? Once you can see the solenoid, you can test it with a simple multimeter. What you're doing is measuring its resistance in ohms. And why does that matter? Well, think of a solenoid as just a big coil of wire. When electricity flows through, it creates a magnet that moves a little valve. If the resistance is way too high, it means the wire inside is broken. If it's too low, it's shorted out. You'll need to look up the exact spec for your car, but it's usually a really small number, somewhere between 1 and 5 ohms. If your reading is way off, bingo, you found your bad part. So, look, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be that solenoid or its wiring. But just so you have the whole picture, let's talk about a few other, less common possibilities. Now, these are the more serious and thankfully much rarer causes. You could have a damaged valve body, which is like the command center for the fluid, or even a bad internal pump. But here's the thing. Usually, if you have one of these big problems, you'll be seeing a whole bunch of other error codes, not just P0796. So if P0796 is the only code you've got, you can feel pretty confident the problem is right there at that solenoid circuit. All right, so you've played detective, you've done the diagnosis, you've found the bad guy. Let's wrap this up by talking about the final fix and what you should really take away from all this. So the path to the fix is actually pretty straightforward from here. First, you replace whatever component failed. Most likely, that's solenoid C. And hey, since you've already got the pan off, it is always a fantastic idea to put a new transmission filter in. Then you just bolt it all back up, refill the fluid, clear that code with a scan tool, and take it for a test drive to make sure everything's shifting nice and smooth.
And all of this brings us back to that one big question, right? DIY or call a pro? Now that you know what's going on, you have a choice. Is this a repair you've got the tools and confidence to tackle, or is it better to hand it off to a professional? There's absolutely no wrong answer here. But the real takeaway is this: understanding the problem is the most powerful first step. It puts you in control to make the right call for you and your car.